recording going. Okay. The first thing I want to emphasize in our class, the art of negotiation, everything is negotiable. You guys understand that?
You say everything
Yeah.
is what?
Everything is negotiable. There's
Right.
no cookie cutter. This is how a real estate transaction is supposed to go. There's no such thing. Everything in a real estate transaction, from the first letter of the contract to the last letter of the contract, is negotiable. You get that?
Yep.
All right. Well, hold on a second. Let me get down here and share my screen. And let's get into this bomb PowerPoint presentation that I got. Hey. Mm-hmm. I know what I wanted to do. I see we all gonna have to learn this over time. Okay, negotiate the deal. Now, everybody was supposed to do their phone calls, correct? And
Yep.
you're supposed to do those every day, your 10-4 calls and contacts and who you talk to. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
How many people been doing
I did mine.
it? Okay, Lynette did hers. What about you, Dale?
I do it, but I didn't do all 10.
Okay. Ayo?
I haven't done all 10, no. I've been trying to negotiate a couple deals.
Monica?
I do my calls. I went through Ignite before. I was just getting a refresher.
See how the girls always gonna be got their grades together, fellas. We always be coming back later on talking about, well, I'm gonna do the best I can.
I haven't met Lynette in person, but hi.
But I'm just,
We met.
y'all have met.
We've met.
Yeah, you've been in class together.
Oh, we have?
Right.
So
I
what I'm
can't
gonna do
tell
is
by your picture. This is what I have. I have my laptop connected to my system so I can roam around, but I have a 36, 42, probably 42-inch monitor over here. So when I'm looking at.
that's way smart. I got the same thing. So I want you guys to focus on this because at the end of the day, this is where your money gonna come from. I don't care how long you're in real estate, whatever you feel your need is, but your money's always gonna come from lead generation. There will never be an opportunity that you be successful in real estate and you don't have a consistent lead generation process. Period.
I want to share something that I did from my notes. When I first started writing notes, I didn't have I didn't think I had anything professional. So then, those long, skinny, like to-do notes, I actually sent some of a note out. So I just want to make sure I sent you a quick note. And the people, and they were to business owners that were struggling. Because, if they have a business, they're struggling in business, they're probably struggling at home with their home mortgage anyway. But anyway, I got a 100% response with those. And then I started writing the regular notes, and no one has returned my, a call or tried to reach out to me. So I think the first ones. Okay, they're on my other desk. But the long notes that which monitor? The long notes that look like this thick and they have the magnet on the back. You can put it up on a refrigerator.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. No.
And every last one of them had called me. The other ones that you write out on a regular note, nothing.
But that's that's good information because what you'll find is everybody has their own style, and their style is going to be at some level, it's going to reflect who they are as an individual. So what may work for you and your clients may or may not work for someone else, and vice versa. See my point? But the key point of it is that you've made it a habit of sending out information on a daily, writing cards.
This is what I was going to use on my next set.
The Postmates?
Write a note and then write an extra little note put it on top, just to personalize it.
Okay, all right. Anybody else have any input on that? Nobody?
Anybody what?
I was seeing if anybody else had any input on that.
No.
Okay.
No.
No worries. Let me see. Okay, your ability to negotiate. And this is where we're going to get into this. This is called get into the game. In regards to your ability to negotiate will directly influence your rate of close. Now, when you think about negotiation, what's the first thing comes across your mind?
A concession that you have to give up.
Okay, that's one. Next.
Price.
Price. All right.
Competition.
Interesting. I'm gonna read something to you right quick, okay? Get your head in the game. Negotiations are an integral part of most real estate transactions. In fact, they are also important. They are also important that the 2014 National Association of Realtors (NAR) survey of buyers and sellers. Negotiation ranks second in the list of what buyers want most from their agent, and ranks sixth in what sellers want from their agent. As with the offers process, negotiation is a pivotal point. It can literally be the deal maker or deal breaker. Negotiations can actually happen twice during this contract process. One, during the offer phase with the goal of getting a contract. Two, during the option period while under contract with the goal of closing the contract. This is more so like your concessions and your requests for repairs. After investing so much time and energy to move a lead all the way to the agreement and then to the contract, the sales contract, do not let the deal fall through now. Your ability to negotiate will directly influence your rate of contracts closed. All right? Negotiation, make it happen. All right? Hold on a second. No, right here. Negotiation, make it happen. You may not realize it, but you are almost always negotiating. When there is something that you want, that new car for the price you want to pay, for your friend to see your point of view in an argument, or for your child to do the dishes. The truth is, whatever you want is often owned or controlled by someone else. The way you get what you want is through negotiation. Negotiation, bargaining, give and take process between two or more parties, each with its own aim, needs, and viewpoints, seeking to discover a common ground and reach an agreement to settle a matter of mutual concern or resolve conflict. You all get that? So when we think of negotiation, pretty much we always negotiate, aren't we? Yeah. That's important. Now, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop sharing mine. I'm going to pause the share for a minute. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. And I'm going to add another link here. Now, this link here is Josh Anderson, right? Josh Anderson has got a 10-minute YouTube video that I would like each and every one of you to watch right quick. And then we're going to come back in 10 minutes and discuss it, because he makes some very good points in that. Okay? Did everybody see the link that I have for that?
Yes.
Hey, Success, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. How are you guys?
All right. So, does everybody have the test? Have the link?
Test.
Monica does. Devin, you got it?
I have Josh. Ah.
Yeah, I got it.
Anita? Lynette?
Yeah, I saw you put it up. But if I click on that, then
I don't have it.
From this, right?
No, what you may have to do is you may have to click on it and go to a different, it's a YouTube link. Because see, what happens is, and this is one of the flaws, if I click to play it, it'll play, but you won't be able to see it. You won't be able to hear it.
Yeah, I think you have to turn your speaker up or something. But we can just click on the link. You want us to click on it, go
Well,
look
hold
at it?
on. If that be the case, let's see if I can play it. I don't have no problem sharing. Hold on. I will go right in there and play it right now. Can you all see that?
Yes, I
Yeah.
see it.
Can you hear it?
I'm Josh Anderson
Yes,
Yeah.
I hear it.
from Nashville, Tennessee. I've been with Keller Williams since 2006. In 2014, we did about 200 transactions for about $60 million in volume. I grew up on a farm, so I've always seen my dad negotiate. Being the youngest of four, I'm trading and negotiating for others. Although I've kind of done it all the time. Some people are certainly gravitate toward it and are naturally better at it than others. But I think that negotiation can definitely be learned. I think there's a lot of skills that go into being a great negotiator. I think it's learning your client. Instead of kind of assuming that you know what's important to them, really asking a lot of questions and tell you what they need or want, and then speaking to the other agent and finding out what's most important. And there's some agents that just don't give any. When I have an agent that I'm dealing with that's very tight-lipped, I just keep asking questions, and they give me information that they might not have otherwise given, whether it's a divorce or a death, or it's just they got relocated to some other city. And I think if you're really listening and being intentional and purposeful about listening, you'll find out exactly what's important to them and what they have. In certain situations, you have to be creative. We're always looking for the next tip to help our clients and win the deal. One of the techniques that we've used a lot that's worked well for us is the escalation clause. For example, if the property is listed at $250,000, we might go in at $250,000 with strong terms, and in special stipulations, we might put in there that we're willing to beat the next best documented offer by $1,000 up to $263,000. And the best offer might be $261,000, so we end up getting it for $262,000. From a client standpoint, be willing to have a real conversation with the clients. It's not us just being realtors for them, it's us consulting and advising and really telling them, if you really want this property, here's what you have to do to get it. Everybody's got a different way of how they would negotiate. And networking with other Keller Williams agents around the country, the more you hear it, the more ideas you get. And then you end up gearing it towards you and what you think is going to work best for you and your clients. A lot of it comes down to experience, and I think the more deals you do, the more comfortable you get with it. If you can step back from every transaction and learn something, you're going to get really good over time.
All right, that was a cool little video. All right, hold on 1 second. Stop that share, and then I'm gonna go back and share the presentation. All right, anybody got any takeaways from that video?
Pretty much it was write it for a little over, negotiate, go a little over, make sure you get the deal.
Well, that's one option of looking at it, especially when you're trying to get into contract.
Right.
But it's really a game that you don't want to play so much, is where you go above what you really want to pay, but then when you get in the contract, you now want to get a reduction, and it makes you and your client have a tendency to look unreliable, or you running game in a case like that. So you have to, yeah, it's a good strategy, but you have to consider that with respect to how far up you want to go.
Right. But if they qualify for that price, I mean, in that type of market, just go ahead and put in the full price offer, or just go a little higher if they qualify.
I've always been a proponent of that, is that the client should put their best foot forward at all times.
Right.
And when you choose not to, you open the door for someone else to come in and put their best foot forward, which will look different than your client.
Right.
So, one person's strategy is not really bad over another one. It's just that your environment and what the conditions that you're dealing with will dictate which direction that your negotiation should go. Most people like to deal with price and terms, right? But there are far many other concessions that people can generally make in a transaction that have nothing to do with price and terms. See my point? Like, well, let me take that back, because any alteration will actually adjust with terms, but there are usually nuances. Like I'm in a 4-unit right now. The issue are, the property had deferred maintenance. They sent us a request for repairs for a lower price. We rejected the lower price, but they're pressing the issue that they want a unit vacant. Now, we had no problem vacating a unit before the coronavirus. After the coronavirus, it's virtually impossible to vacate somebody, because somebody ain't got to pay rent. You ain't gonna make a move. So it becomes another, issue, but these are all terms. Now, last week, everybody gave each other, the seller and the buyer gave each other the middle finger and said, fine, I'll just cancel. Okay, we've been waiting to cancel for a week. Over the last 3 days, the buyer came back and said, okay, look, maybe we can probably try to close it. You never know when, sometimes you as an agent need to be willing to walk away from the deal.
Right.
Don't get attached to a deal based on the amount of money you think you're gonna make. Did everybody hear that?
Yep.
Because that's where your integrity gonna come into question right there. Please remember that, and don't make that mistake. Too many agents make that mistake, that what they do for their client, they look at it as that's money that they're losing, instead of having a happy client. Any other takeaways that people might have from that video?
You go ahead.
Dan first, then Ayo.
Just when he said really get to know your client. Don't assume that pretty much you know everything.
That's very good. Very good. Ayo?
Yeah, it's like you all want to be on the same side, especially when you're going into, I guess, negotiation. So,
well, that's always the optimal place to be.
Right.
But there are some times when you have certain margin orders going into the deal. Say you're working for the seller. The seller like, I want this amount of money and I'm cool with it. And then you go get them that kind of money. And then they look at the net sheet and realize, based on commissions, based on title and escrow, all of a sudden they're not making as much money as they thought they was making. So now all of a sudden that $650 that you thought was good, now it needs to be $670. Feel me? Sometimes, in other words, sometimes your clients' marching orders will change midstream. So you have to be willing to either remind them on what they are really, what their initial goals are, or what their initial ideas of getting into transaction are. You need to remind them of that. Or both you and the client need to adjust a little bit. Get that?
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
So is it a good thing to kind of like, if educate them on the whole deal, like instead of waiting to find out what their net sheet is going to be, kind of put it together and say, here's what you're going to net if you go at this price?
Yeah, what you do is whenever you say you're dealing with a listing agent, right? Or a seller. Anytime you talk price, the seller needs to see a net sheet. Even if the price goes down, when your client sends you, when the buyer says, I want a request for repairs, you need to send your client a net sheet based on the new price that they're suggesting. Right. The seller needs to always be able to see what their prospective net number gonna be on throughout the transaction, because right. It's always based on money.
Okay.
Lynette, you was gonna offer?
I'm sorry?
I saw you, were you saying something?
I said yes, that's right.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So any other, we got time, because this is one of the most important portions of real estate. It's easy to get somebody to want you to work with them. It's easy to get somebody to say, write me an offer. It's hard to get the offer accepted, and it's hard to get the offer from one end to the other. Get that? This is where your money is getting made, right here.
Right. I just think you have to communicate and be on the same page with the buyer and the seller.
You do, but let me ask everybody this question. In every transaction that you are, who are you working for?
Yourself.
That's one answer.
The seller, you work for the seller if it's the listing.
Whoever your client is.
Yeah.
Might be both.
Now, easy answer would say, I work for whomever my fiduciary is for, buyer or seller, or if I'm in the middle, both parties.
Right.
The real answer is you working for the deal. Each deal is unique in itself. Each deal has two unique parties who have two unique desires and the end of it. And at the end of the day, it's your task to get it from the beginning to the end. So it's the deal, because the deal's gonna shift. You get that?
Yes.
That's the most important. That's one of the most important things that you guys can get here. Is that you working for the deal. So you have to be in the deal, and you have to represent your client's wishes as best you can, but you also have to understand what the other side's wishes are and how to articulate all of that information to your client. Some people are unreasonable. It just happens. Everybody's not going to be reasonable, and everybody's not going to see logic the same way. But you have to be willing to adjust. Get that?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to read something to you. Okay, negotiating tips. Keep the following tips in mind as you work toward mastery in negotiation. 1, above all else, be professional. 2, remember your goal, a signed contract. This is what you've been driving toward, and this is what both agents and their clients have in mind. 3, control what you say to anyone involved in the transaction. Now that's super important. Can somebody tell me why that's super important?
Did you say control what you say?
Control what you say to anyone involved in the transaction.
Because you're liable. It's consequences. Or it could catch back up with you.
That's 1. Ms. Perry. Anybody else?
I couldn't hear.
Did you say something, Lynette? Because you seem like you broke up.
It was breaking up. I couldn't hear.
Oh, so again, I'll ask the question again. What does it mean when I say control what you say to anybody involved in the transaction? I'll give you an example. Suppose somebody sends me an offer and they talking blah, 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 and I get the offer, blah, blah, blah. And then they tell me in the middle of the conversation, I'm on the, we on this other deal. We trying to get that one closed too. They don't say anything. All of a sudden they just reveal all of a sudden now them being in this deal is contingent upon them being in the, upon them closing the other deal. Even though they didn't tell me that, what it's gonna look like is I'm gonna get an accepted offer. I'm gonna be waiting on them, and then I gotta play the notice to perform game to either get them to move or get them out of the transaction. Get that?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you might be going through and you may look at it and you like, yeah, we was in there, man. They had some stuff up there that looked like mold. Somebody overhears you. Guess what happens now? Now somebody gonna now want to look at inspection. Now all of a sudden they're gonna start asking for some money back.
Yeah.
You have to be careful on what you expose based on your fiduciary, who you represent. You represent the seller. You don't need to say nothing about in that house. Look, whatever's on the inspection report, that's what we're gonna deal with. I don't care if I know something that exists other than that. I'm dealing with the inspection report because that's what you paid for and that's what you use. You get my point?
A lot of static.
You breaking up a little bit, Lynette.
Yeah, I hear a lot of static.
Oh, you hear static?
I can hear you now.
Okay. It might be your phone because you're staticky to us.
Did you say it might be what?
Say that again. I guess, see, everybody can hear me, but in hearing you, you're coming off, you sound muffled. So it may be your phone and your signal. All right. The reason, so you got to be careful about what it is you share in the transaction with the other side or with other people, because you got to make sure your goal is to get the transaction closed. You don't want to say nothing that causes somebody to think about something else. You don't want to just offer some information that causes somebody to pause or back up out of the transaction. You would like people to be in the transaction where they are. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes we get to selling and we don't need to sell. Well, you know, this is not. No, just shut up. Let them come to their own conclusion.
Let me ask you one.
Say that again.
One question. Say if you get the seller's report, right? I mean the inspection report, but say they inquire about, is there anything else with the property? Then
who's asking the question?
Like the buyer's agent.
They're asking you?
Yeah, say what they're asking you. Is there anything else besides the inspection report that you know about, or something like that?
Well, that's a vague question. Depends on how much you want to give them. You get my point?
Yeah, I got you.
If you know there's a sinkhole under the living room, you're gonna say, yeah, you know, it might be a sinkhole in there. But if you don't know nothing for sure, don't say nothing for sure.
Yeah.
In other words, I don't care if it's black spots all on the wall. I don't know that that's. I do not know that is mold. I am not a mold inspector. So yeah. I will say, I don't know. You get my point?
Yeah.
Don't just volunteer because that's something you think, because he will blow up your deal like right now.
I'm telling you, I gotta. Yeah.
So it's important to really monitor. You know, more agents lose money running their mouth unnecessarily. Just keep that part in mind, okay? And the rest of that sentence is, if you create anxiety in your client or other parties, you are reducing their leverage in negotiation. 4, continually refer back to motivation. Remind your client why they want to buy or sell and help them reevaluate their requests if they are becoming unreasonable. And this is the one we just left. Don't reveal too much. Listen more than you talk. Keep your client's motivation close to your chest. My uncle used to tell me something when I was a kid. He used to say, you know, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. That means he wanted you to listen twice as much as you talk. That's what I was taught. So sometimes I just sit back and just look at you. All right, but there's nothing wrong with that. And that's a practice that I would say that most agents need to take into consideration. It's not hiding or being sneaky because you don't choose to volunteer some information. You get that?
Yeah.
However, this is something you really need to know. In real estate, the most important thing to the BRE is what?
Confidentiality.
Disclosure.
Oh, sorry.
Disclosure, disclosure, disclosure. And that means if you know what you need to tell it if somebody asks you. So if somebody, say you represent the seller, and somebody sends you the inspection report, if you read that inspection report in detail, everything you read in there now becomes disclosure. Did you know that?
Yeah.
So don't read it unless you need to. Unless your client send you, somebody send you a notice to report, a request for repairs, and they use that to justify why they want the request for repairs, then you read it. Other than that, anything you read, become aware of, or somebody tells you, it becomes disclosure. Get that? So you got to be cognizant about what you say and what you decide you want to listen to or read. Next, this is the most important thing in negotiation, and you will win more deals using this concept of thought than anything else. Do not be attached to the outcome. You will do hundreds or thousands of transactions in your career, and there is no way that you can get everything you and your clients want all the time. Don't let it affect your mindset. If a deal doesn't go through or your client doesn't act or on your recommendation, find a different wing. Get that?
Yep.
Again, once you start getting up into, well, you know, I'm trying to make this money, and the outcome, to you, the outcome is a check. To them, the outcome is a house that they're going to live in for 20 years. Get that? Sometimes you need to be willing to walk away from the deal. And if the other side, I know it for me, if I'm negotiating with somebody and they seem desperate to stay in the deal, I'm gonna stress them. I'm gonna keep asking for some, and then I'm subject to say, well, I can find me another property. I'm gonna use all that because they, you know what I'm saying, they sweating their money. I get that. For me, I'm trying to get a deal. So never ever put yourself in a position where it appears that you need this deal because the other side will use that against you. Any questions about that?
No.
No.
You sure? All right.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I've won more transactions by convincing the other agent that I don't need their deal and I'm gonna go find me another. You know why it works? Because the other agents see a check walking away.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Check.
Yeah. I know they stressing the check, so I'm gonna see how much they stressing it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it'll be any different now with the coronavirus situation out there? How people are will walk into a deal or walk away from a deal?
Yes. See, right now, especially in the arena that I play in with the investment arena, this is what you call there's blood in the water, so all the sharks come out. And what that means is 2 weeks ago, 450 might have been the perfect price. This week, 4.25 is about as high as I'm gonna go. And they will walk away from the deal and they trying to get all the low ball. Now, the ones that's gonna make money are the ones that's willing to wait till May 1st and not reduce the price and be like, okay, cool. Because by that time, everybody's gonna start coming back around. Everybody's gonna start getting active. And now those deals, like they were saying, like Mike was saying earlier, not Mike, but Tom, like some of those deals, all of a sudden now they ain't, the person buying it don't have the competition they had 2 weeks ago.
It's just that the credit may have to be a little bit different. So
yeah, credit might
take
have
on
to
one
be
side and put it on the other side.
Well, yeah, but here's again, we have a housing shortage, so we got more buyers than houses. What that means though is we're gonna lose some of the buyers. All right, that's fine, but we still got the same low part amount of houses. See my point? So even if we lose some buyers in this process, the buyers that remain are still going to be more than the amount of houses that we still have. And they still going to go at the ones that's left just as rapidly as they went to before. So again, and I'm going to say this, people that look like me and you, they talking about everybody talking about the bottom about to fall out and gloom and doom. Other folks are saying hunker down in the second quarter and we're going to recover third and fourth. That's what everybody else is talking about. We might want to pause for a second and pay attention to that theory. Whether it's right or wrong, it can't be gloom and doom. And by us being in the real estate market, we also need to be in the finance market, and we also need to be in politics. Because all of those aspects directly affect your income. Get that? All right. Points of negotiation. During the negotiation process, price and terms are common points of negotiation. Price. While the sales price is the primary factor in negotiation, it is not necessarily the bottom line. In a situation where the seller receives multiple offers at the same price, it is the terms of those offers, in addition to the buyer's financial position, that will determine which one wins. Terms. The terms of an offer may be financial or time-based or both. When the buyer and the seller can agree on a sales price, the following 5 offer terms come into play: closing costs, closing date, conveyances, earnest money and option fee, and repairs.
Are you on the right PowerPoint?
Yeah, because we're still here in the negotiation phase.
Okay, then can you repeat? You said the terms, the financials,
We need to be here.
The terms.
Because we haven't gotten to the 3 P's yet. All right. So, closing costs. How can closing costs positively affect or negatively affect a deal? Don't everybody speak up at once, and I will call on them.
Yeah, you said how can it affect
dollars?
You said how can it affect the deal?
Yeah, closing costs. How can closing costs positively or negatively affect your deal in your negotiation?
If the buyer's short.
Yeah, it could they might not have a budget for it.
Well, either side.
Either side. Like say the buyer's short, right?
Right.
And the buyer wants the seller to pay closing costs. If the seller wants to do it, then that's enough to get the buyer in play. Say the seller's like, so here's what you see. In a buyer's market, you will see closing costs being paid more often than not.
Right.
In a seller's market, seller ain't paying closing costs. You want the house, go get the money, you buy it. Here, I ain't gonna help.
Right.
That's the difference. Now, here's something that might work too. Like I've seen a buyer pay the seller closing costs.
Oh, wow.
All that did is add an extra $5,000 to the net instead of adding it to the purchase price.
Right.
See my point? There are a lot of ways that you can use closing costs to your advantage. Let me read what it says. Traditionally paid by the buyer, closing costs are in addition to the purchase price. Securing the cash to pay these expenses can be difficult for some, especially for first-time home buyers. Therefore, the seller may be asked to pay a portion of the closing costs. When you represent a seller, make your client aware that it's common for buyers to ask for part of the closing costs to be covered by them and what their options are. Get that? So let your client know that people are going to be asking for it. But again, in a buyer's market, that's going to be a common thing.
Right.
Right now, we're kind of in this transitionary thing. You know, before the coronavirus, it's pretty a sale market kind of slide. Now we're in a neutral market, and it's my guess that we may slide into a buyer's market, but the fact that California has a housing shortage makes it hard to be in a buyer's market because you will always have more buyers than sellers. So that makes it a seller's market. Everybody understand that?
Yep.
Okay, closing date. How would somebody feel that the closing date could possibly affect it, negatively affect the deal?
Positively affected if the seller needs 60 days or something like that to move out.
Yeah. Speed in which you can close the transaction is always in play.
Right.
All
Especially
right.
if it's a distressed sale.
Say that again.
Especially if it's a distressed sale.
Exactly. But in any case, say this is a regular retail sale. I got everybody's offer. All the offers are identical in price. Everybody's calling 30-day escrow. I come in at 15-day escrow. Who you think gonna win?
15 days.
Yeah. Because it's gonna really come down to how fast I'm gonna get my money. That's what the seller gonna want to know.
Right.
So you gotta, you can use that as your advantage, especially if you're in an environment where you're dealing with a cash buyer against finance buyers.
Right.
No finance buyer is gonna be able to operate before 30 days, not one. Because that's just how long the process takes with the appraisal and then the docs bouncing back and forth to escrow, the inspection
30,
period. You're
45
talking about
escrow.
45, almost 50 days to pull that one off. Feel me? With respect to somebody say, I got all my money in 15. So we got to consider that as an issue too. And then you got other things like conveyances. Like while conveyances are defined by a locality's board of realtors, a general rule of thumb is that attached fixtures stay with the home and non-realty items, personal property, go with the seller. In negotiation, the buyers may request certain personal property items stay with the home, such as furniture, window treatments, and a refrigerator. You do notice, does everybody know the chandeliers come with the house unless the seller say they're keeping it?
Yeah, it's attached.
Right.
Okay. Jacuzzi. They stay with the house unless the seller requests because it's attached to the house. Now, this was one thing that they started tripping on in the mid, about 5-6 years ago, because people start putting their flat screen TVs on the wall. And that wall actually makes it connected to the house. So in some cases, at first, people were losing them TVs. Then they came back and said, no, the TV is personal. Even though it's attached to the wall, it's still considered a personal item. Because the rule of thumb, if it's attached and it's attached to the wall or attached to the house, it's yours. It goes with the house. If you can remove it easily, it stays. It go with you. Okay? Anybody ever heard of an escalation clause? Raise your hand anytime. Nobody ever heard of escalation clause?
Escalate the loan, make it do everything.
Is that the agreement?
We're talking about offers now.
Oh.
So anybody know what an escalation is this? Suppose I have a property that's $500,000 and my earnest money deposit is 3%, so I put in $15,000. And then I tell the seller, I said, now after I do my inspection in 3 days, I'll add another $5,000. See my point? Or something that'll kind of look like he said in the example. This is my offer, and I'm willing to pay $1,000 over the highest verified offer you have. See my point? Those are all escalation clauses that help you in your way, because now I'm putting more money in the table. And the bigger my deposit, the more committed I am to the transaction as far as the seller's going. I've seen people put half the purchase price in the escrow as they earn this money. So you just got to kind of think about those issues. And then the last one is repairs. Most offers are contingent on the outcome of the home inspection and necessary repairs. Depending on the complexity of the repairs, buyers may ask the seller to make repairs prior to closing, subject to a follow-up inspection, deduct repair costs from the sales price, or pay a lump sum at closing to cover those costs. Get that? Any questions? No question. Everybody just sleep right now? All right. All right. All right. Now,
So far, so good.
all right. The 3 P's: prepare, present, and position. Anybody want to add to that or throw something on the table right quick? Talk to me. Guess not. Okay.
I feel like it's good for you to know your deal before you go to the other agent, you know, because they can, you know, if you know your deal better than the person who's selling the deal, it gives you a better position.
Always. Preparation matters. This is something that I learned when I was, now, most of y'all might know this. I'm a former computer geek before I got into real estate. So one of the things that I learned early on is they used to tell us that prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. It's called the 7 P's. Okay? So if you fail to prepare, then your performance is going to be reflected. Same thing in a deal. If you have to prepare for the deal, you got to know what you're trying to get. You can't just go into the negotiation and say, well, I don't know what we want, but my client said he wants $5,000 less. How does that work? Something like that's not going to work. Negotiation is a skill that can be learned and perfected with experience. The best practice for negotiation and bringing the buyer and the seller together, the 3 P's approach: prepare, 1, 2, present, 3, position. 1, let's talk about prepare. Preparation is the key to building confidence and ensuring a smooth negotiation process. 1, know your goal. Have a clear goal of reaching a win-win agreement in which both the buyer and the seller are satisfied with the outcome of the negotiation. Remind your client of their motivation for moving or buying the house, and that when the contract closes, they will be able to move on with their life. Next, know your client. Make sure you fully understand your client's goal. Learn the areas in which they are willing to negotiate and where they will stand firm. Think ahead. Anticipate what the other party wants out of the negotiation. Write down how you think they may counter the offer and how you plan to handle it. Next, set clear expectations. Prior to meeting with the other party, set clear and realistic expectations with your client, and then under-promise and over-deliver. Stress the importance of moving quickly to create a sense of urgency. Part of setting clear expectations with your client is being clear that win-lose agreements are likely to be rejected by the other side. To set yourself up for success, make it a win-win. Next, be informed. Before making an offer or counteroffer, it's good practice to speak with 2 other agents. Ask open-ended questions and use active listening to find out as much as you can about the other party and their agent. This helps you know with whom you are negotiating and on what points you will negotiate, and where you and your client have leverage. This one is very important. Obey the laws. Every state and locality has its own set of laws that regulates zoning, mortgage qualification, and other real estate matters. Stay current on local regulations and stay out of court. That is not fun. I'm telling you, do not find yourself on the other side of somebody's deposition because they didn't like something that went down. You're going to feel like you're a criminal, and they're going to make you feel like you're the dumbest real estate agent ever, and you should be in jail because you can't answer their question. And it's going to be about 6 white people on the other side of the table, and they're going to have a stenographer, and you're going to feel way uncomfortable. I'm telling you, stay out of that. Y'all got it? All right. Know the documents inside and out. Become familiar with your local board of realtors governing forms. Take the time needed to understand the form templates and what belongs in each field. The most important thing that you could ever learn in real estate in regards to negotiation is what? Don't all jump in at one time now. What's the most important thing that you can learn in real estate that'll help you with your real estate?
Contracts.
Yes, you need to know the contract. I mean, like for real.
Contract.
I win more deals learning because I know the contract. There are nuances in the contract. There are things that everybody's going to follow that are kind of set benchmarks that everything defaults to. But let me plug something in here with you. When you're in a transaction, your goal is to win the transaction for the client in which you represent. The easiest way to do that is to set up an environment where your client gets what they want, but the other side kind of gets what they want. Or you have an environment where both sides feel like they done gave up something, and now both sides are committed to the transaction. You get that? So you got to know what it is and how you want the outcome to be. Do not allow the other side to dominate the transaction as well. Here's something that I make it a habit of. Whenever I'm in a transaction or I deal with an agent, if it be I'm about to write an offer or I'm in a deal, I'm paying close attention to the number on which they license hold. My number is 0183. I got my license in 2009. Anybody with a 018 pretty much got their license in 2008, 9, or 10, somewhere in that ballpark. So they've been in the game for a minute. Somebody with a 021, they don't know nothing. They're going to have somebody else help them with the contract. They're going to miss all the nuances. And when they look at the contract, all they're looking at is price and what their client got to pay. They're not looking at no other aspect of the contract, probably because they don't know no better. All of these are small little clues to take advantage to give yourself the benefit of the contract, of the negotiation. Generally, you're going to win if you negotiate with somebody that ain't as smart as you. Generally speaking. So you got to keep that in mind. All right. Now we have another.
I'm gonna say, do you have some? I don't know. Last year, what are some things that sellers have given up since it's been a seller's market? When they had to, what did they give up?
In a seller's market?
Yeah.
If they have to?
I'm saying in your experience this past year, when they gave up something, what do they usually give up?
Usually a price point. They usually reduce the price. They don't want to come out their pocket, but more often than not, it's going to be a price reduction.
And what about on the buyer side?
Usually on the buyer, they probably not going to get anything they ask for the most part unless the property goes down. Meaning they're not going to get closing costs covered. See my point? The seller may give them a home warranty, but I've seen sellers push back on the home warranty. Like, okay, you got $500 home warranty, the seller ain't paying for that. You see my point?
Now you're calling it a neutral market now, so it's just like whatever they ask.
Yeah, I mean, you ain't going. I mean, you can ask for whatever you want to. At the end of the day, what's the worst thing they can say? They say no, well, you ain't doing no worse off than you was when you originally wrote the offer. So you ain't lost nothing. See my point? And you got to learn how to be creative because remember, most of the other agents are going to operate from a generic place. They're going to fill out the offer the way that they were taught to fill it out, and it's going to be pretty much generic. They're just going to click the buttons and print it out. Let me tell you a trick I do every now and then when I have a client that's slow. When I have one of my slow clients, I make sure that I take the notice to perform and I write 5 in there next to the 2. Now there's nothing else on that contract page that you can write on except for that box right there. So most young agents are missing. So now when my buyer doesn't perform and you send me a 2-day notice to perform, I'm going to take the 2-day notice to perform. And at the end of the 2 days, I'm going to tell you that this is an invalid notice to perform. And you need to read the contract. And then you're going to send me another one that's going to have 5 days on it. Now, all of that whole rigmarole then bought me 8 days worth of, I ain't got to respond to you. Get that? I see you. I see your head kind of getting hot there, Dale. You get it?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. So
It's all
basically,
about how you present it. And what
yeah,
you see, I know my clients, they don't want to answer all the time. So I don't need you telling me you're going to kick me out of escrow right now. You get my point? That's one of those little small things I do that people miss. But you got to be willing to just kind of know how to get your client what they need. Get that without offending the other side. All right. Now, they got us a present. There's a, I'm going to skip this activity because everybody doesn't have the manual written down. And without the manual, it's going to be really weird. All right. But you know what? Let me do it a different way. I'll just ask you the question. Okay. Read the scenario below. Identify the keys in which you need more information or certainty before you would confidently negotiate on your client's behalf. Write 3 specific questions you would ask your client in the space provided below. All right? So I'm going to write it, and y'all think about it, and I'm going to ask you for some questions. You're representing a single buyer. Your client is renting her current property. Like any first-time buyer, she is looking to you to guide her through the process. The asking price for the home she really loves is $175. The house appears to have evidence of a roof leak, is listed as is, and is correctly priced. Your client would like to keep her payments as low as possible since she still has a number of student loans to pay off. She wants to write an offer for $155. There has been quite a bit of activity on the listing. Okay? Questions to ask your client. Shoot.
How bad do you want this house?
Okay, that's a good one. Now, why are you asking them how bad do they want the house?
Because they're going lower and they can be outbid by other people.
Okay, it's a good question. I was just checking. Next.
I want to know exactly how much money the buyer working with.
Say that again.
How much money is the buyer working with?
Okay, I see your point. Like at 155, can they afford to make the repairs themselves? Is that what you're asking?
Right, or their own pay their own closing costs without asking for anything.
Okay, okay.
If they really want the house.
That could work. Anybody else?
Since they putting the lower, they want to get the house for cheaper. And maybe, is there anything else you willing to give up in the deal, basically to leverage out the offer that they're putting in? If that makes sense. Because you know, when you first get your client or whatever, you ask them what are the things that are most important to you, and then maybe since they're putting a lower offer, if it comes down to it, maybe with the terms, they could like maybe willing to kind of balance it somewhere.
All right, those are some good questions. Let me now here goes some that the system. Oh, go ahead, Mom.
I was going to ask her maybe if they can get some down payment assistance. Then that would put more money in their pocket.
Maybe. I don't know how the down payment assistance is going to affect the 155 because it would have to be higher unless you're going to use the down payment assistance to come in and they still going to use more of their money to get closer to the 175.
Yeah.
Hey, I ain't mad at you. You know, anybody ever thought
Sometimes
about anybody ever considered removing the appraisal contingency? See, what if this house is, what if they trying to reach top of the market? What if the seller think the house might really be worth 165? He just trying to see how much he can get. So you come in at the 155 with no appraisal contingency because the other 175s all gonna have appraisals. So now all of a sudden you put in the seller mind, do I want to take a chance? Because what if the appraiser come in at 150? Get my point? Now you lose that. So little stuff like that. And there are companies that the moment you open escrow, order the appraisal right now. So now you have the appraisal back prior to the 17-day inspection contingency expiring. So you still protect your client. You just write the offer a different way. You get that? But you make sure that the lender already know that before you submit the offer. These are all techniques that can be used. Now let me show you what they wrote. You ask your client, what is it about the house that makes it your favorite? Now you get a feel on why they're connected to that house. What's the possibility of you paying for the repairs and we stay at your asking price of 155? That's what Lynette was saying. How much money you got? Then you got, what if the seller counters with a full offer to fix the roof, or counters with no repairs at all? Because if the seller come back and say, I'll fix the roof, then your $20,000 reduction don't make no sense. If the seller comes back and says, no, I'm not making repairs, okay, so it comes back to who asked the question, how bad did you want the house? Now it comes back to that question. You get it? So you just kind of keep these kind of things in your skull, just a little bit, just a little bit. All right, we still 16. All right, we're still in here. All right, now, present. Move into the negotiation process by presenting your current offer to the co-op agent and listening to the response. First, call the agent. Let them know of your offer or counter offers coming and invite them into the buying loop in Edge where they will be able to view the current offer. We don't use Edge no more, so we're going to put that to the side. But yeah, call the agent. Connect with the agent. The agent don't really want to tell you what's going on. I have agents tell me all the time, Juan, your price is too low, man. All right, let me see what I can do. They'll tell me what the environment is. I get that information when I first call. First thing I ask an agent that I'm doing business with, are you representing any offers? You know why I ask that question? I'm not interested in wasting my time. Because whoever he's representing is going to know what the highest offer is with everybody offering, after everybody then offered, and that agent stands to make double commission. So why wouldn't that agent, show some sort of loyalty to whatever the offer is? It makes it a harder uphill battle. See my point? But I've represented buyers in a transaction that my buyer didn't want to go as high as somebody else's buyer. Okay, now I got to sell it. Get it? So keep that in mind. Pay attention to the nonverbal clues. While it is not always possible or practical to make your presentation in person, a face-to-face meeting allows you to analyze body language and facial expressions. Otherwise, present your offer by phone and listen to the verbal clues. You do know that you can request that you present your offer to the seller, and the listing agent can't prevent it. They just have to ask the seller. More often than not, the listing agent is gonna say no, but there's nothing legally preventing them from allowing them to say no. People do that. You don't see it so much in California, but you'll see it in other places. I want to submit my own offer to the seller because sometimes they may not, especially if the agent is representing another buyer, they're not comfortable that their offer is getting represented. So technically you have the right to do that. I wouldn't press the issue because the listing agent gonna get mad and you all of a sudden your offer ain't gonna be in that pie. And they ain't gonna tell you why. Get that? All right. Here's a good one. Keep quiet once you present an offer. Sometimes letting the other person do most of the talking is the most powerful negotiation technique because of what they will reveal. With that, the hint. Let me know what y'all think. Don't tell them, don't try to sell them to take your offer. Don't do, because now what's going to happen is they're going to read you as desperate. Once they read you as desperate, then they're going to try to ask your buyer to take all kinds of stuff. You know, I kind of want to go with you, but you know, you guys are a little bit tight. I don't know. Look, can you do this, this, and this? And at that point, because you're desperate, you're going to think about it. Man, let me hurry and get this check done. Blah, 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 blah. I got an agent at me right now, mad, because she didn't like the deal. I said, okay, fine, send me a cancellation. She sent a cancellation, fine. But my client is over in the 70s. They on quarantine. So I ain't rushing to give her earnest money back, and she ain't really can't do nothing to make me do it because the seller got to sign off on it. Well, in that week and a half that we've been bouncing around, she done came back twice. I'm like, you know what? I think we can close the deal anyway. I play them kind of games. Get that? I use the environment. Now, without Corona, without any of that, my client would have had to sign off on that already. You get that? But because Los Angeles got a stay-at-home order and they very vulnerable, I got flexibility now that I get to use to my advantage. Because I can just let it sit in limbo for 45 days. Why? Because once your ass you say you got the coronavirus, they immediately putting you on quarantine. Well, I'm telling you that to say you use what is available to get to win the advantage for your client. But you got to know the rules in order to pull that one off. You understand my point? Now, here's another one. Listen carefully to what is important to the other party. If the other side ain't getting what they want, then you ain't really gonna get no buy-in on getting what you want. It's gonna come off like you just trying to bully them. And people don't like to get bullied. They push back you. All right? Stay calm and relaxed. This is something that kills most deals for agents because the other side may say something janky. They might even do something janky. And then sometimes, you know, all of us ain't, you know, some of us, I'm going to tell you about me. You know, I ain't always been no Christian. And I will say something that's way janky. But I've learned over the years that sometimes it's best to say, you know what, let me call you back. I need some time. And just stop without communicating. Because I will say, don't call me no more. I don't care about the deal, and hang up on you. And go look for another transaction. But that ain't wise. I lose more than I win doing that. So what I'm saying to you is stay calm and relax. Present your offer and let it do what it do. See, if you ain't got but one offer, you ain't got but one deal you working on, anything happen to that deal, your life is all of a sudden is in emergency mode. Your whole life is in emergency mode. As soon as anything happened to that one deal that you've been working on for 6 months. Now, if you got 5 deals and you lose one, you ain't gonna care about that one because you still got them other 4. Y'all get that? So don't just focus on one deal and then milk and hold that deal forever like it's a child. You get the deal, send the child to kindergarten and pick him up in 1st grade and you get you another. Did y'all hear that? You get the baby, which is the deal. You put it in kindergarten. It's going to have to do what it's going to do for a minute. And by the time it graduates from kindergarten, go to 1st grade, that's when you check it. We all on the same page? Do we have any questions to this point? No questions? Does anybody know what a nonverbal clue is?
Like somebody crossing their arms. But I do have a question. It's like,
say that, Io, you're breaking up a little.
I did have a question. Well, like a nonverbal cue is like somebody crossing their arms and looking off in the distance. You know, like they're not interested or they're trying to be guarded. Can you hear me?
Yes, I got you. That's a good one.
All right. But I did have a question. like how hard do you want to go on these negotiations? You know, because sometimes some of these agents, they don't, you know, it's like they don't even want to take a look at your offer. And then when you get your offer in front of them, it seems like they don't even want to do the deal, or they're like holding a deal for their friend or something. You know, it's just like, how do I get to the bottom of that without, you know, killing the deal?
You always are gonna have a situation where somebody's trying to help somebody.
All right.
That's the advantage of, and everybody that's been in real estate for a long time will tell you that all the power resides in the listing. So that's why they teach people to go after the listing, because you control everything, and you have the listing. People will always come to you, and you get to dictate how things go. But so some people take that a little farther than they need to take it. What you have to do as an agent is you have to learn how to develop a rapport with the other side prior to writing the offer. You get that? Reach out, call them, get a feel to them.
Okay.
Find out, you know, who they are. You get my point?
Yes.
And even if you don't get this offer, hey, you got anything else I can look at? You got to always be trying to figure out how to make your offer look good, because your offer may not look good. You may not know what they have. So you send your offer, you like, this is a bomb offer. And then you got somebody that's stupid that's coming in 30,000 above you. They not gonna talk to you. I know
Right.
I would. So did that answer your question?
Yes. Yes, it did.
All right. Anybody else can tell me something about nonverbal clues? Miss Davis?
Maybe no eye contact.
All right. Good answer. Mr. Lopez, what's happening, man? I see you at the bottom. You ain't saying nothing. David?
Yes, sir. I'm listening.
All right. You got any? I asked the question. Did you hear?
Yeah, about the
nonverbal clues.
Nonverbal clue could be not paying attention to you.
That's right.
Not really like listening to what you're saying, because they're thinking about maybe other offer that they have, or like, you know, thinking about something else instead of what they have in front.
Yeah. But what I'm saying now is flip it and give me a positive one. Give me a nonverbal clue that you picked up that'll probably work in your advantage.
Okay. Let me see. I can't think of one right now.
No worries. No, man, look. I'm just trying to get you involved. I'm going to go pick on somebody else for a minute. Success?
You're so funny.
Talk to me. I need a positive, you know, nonverbal clue.
I mean, I feel like sometimes they may just want to think about it, but nonverbal.
All right, let me help y'all out. Face-to-face, nonverbal clues, open gestures like nodding, sitting back, open palms. These may indicate agreement, understanding, or interest. On the phone, upbeat, empathetic, varied tones, and a swift pace of speech. These are all positive nonverbal clues that pick up on the phone and face-to-face. Negatives, closed gestures, crossed arms, lack of eye contact may indicate lack of interest or disagreement. On the phone, a monotone, flat voice, a loud tone, and an abrupt or especially slow speech. All of these are forms of nonverbal clue. Okay? I will keep those in mind. See, one of the things, I'll share this with you. One of the things that works for me in my advantage a little bit is I like to play poker. I play tournament poker. That's something that I do as a hobby, right? So I deal with stuff in poker. At some point in time, I'm gonna push all my chips in. And it ain't whether or not what I got in my hand is what you think I got. Because you're gonna respond based on what you think I have, not what I actually have. That's usually how that ends up going. So you got to figure out a way to use what's necessary. And it's the same thing. We all grow up like this. Like you know, like say you dating or you meet somebody that's cool. You know, you're going to pay attention to the eye contact. She laughing at your jokes. If she walking away and she ain't laughing at your jokes, she probably ain't feeling it. But you say something stupid and she start giggling, you in there. It's all about how that works. You know what I'm saying? You got to decide, you know, what clues you getting to make you think that you winning. Because if you're not winning, you just sitting there. Somebody else can slid behind you and started trying to win. All right? Any questions before I move on?
No. I like that you play poker, though.
Man, everybody loves my analogies, man. All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't even know if it's with this section or not, but it just came to mind. Now, with when, you know, May 1st, when everything opens again, and I think more people will come, there'll be a little more than what's on the market right now. And a seller may say, I don't know, and the agent may say, well, the seller's going to look at offers in 7 days. What does that mean for the buyer? What will that mean for the buyer?
They got to hang out.
That's actually a verbal clue, but how would you help the buyer out?
Well, it depends on how I was told. Meaning that may imply that the selling listing agent is having a problem connecting with the seller. That might include that they've had so many offers and they got some internal things going on that they need to wait a week before they get into that they may not have shared with you. You see my point? Or it may include that they got a bunch of offers and it's going to take them time to go through all of them. It doesn't necessarily mean a negative thing. Treat it all as it's just information. It's just information until you attach a positive or negative to it. And that positive and negative attached to it will determine where you are in the deal. See, when we broke, we always, I need to do whatever I need to do to get this. If I got a little money, then I'm willing to pause and kind of be open-minded a little bit. So wherever you are emotionally will determine how you handle or deal in the deal and how you take the information coming from the other side. You may take it as they said that means they got somebody else. No, it just means that I ain't heard from the seller in 3 days and I don't know what to tell you. You see my point? But now, what you choose to do with that information after that will determine, you know, your emotional state about it. See my point? Don't judge information. Take the information as neutral. It don't mean nothing. It's just some information. I'm going to give you a tip that somebody gave me a long time ago, and I want all y'all to remember this one. Anytime you're in a transaction and you get some negative news, wait 24 hours before you contact your client. Get that? Do not have somebody call you and tell you something crazy and you get on the phone and call your client right now. Because in 4 hours, it might be completely different than your client. Your client will look at you like you crazy. You feel me? If anything negative happens, unless it is an absolute emergency that requires somebody to attend to it right now, do not tell your seller or your buyer for 24 hours. Because until you tell them, they ain't gonna know nothing else. Okay? Keep that information. Always never respond to it that way. You feel me? Because you're responding, because your emotion about something will transfer to the seller or your client, especially to a buyer. And you make them start feeling weird or start feeling scared about something, they're gonna get a little weird on you. And then somebody that seemed like they was ready to go ain't ready to go now because they ain't really trusting you as much as you thought they was trusting you last week. But they too scared to say something to you about it. You feel me? All right. In negotiating, your client and or agents may use certain methods or tactics in an attempt to manipulate the negotiation. This is real talk. Because the tactics are generally predictable, you can learn to quickly and accurately identify them when they are being used on you. Additionally, you can respond with the appropriate counter tactic with a high probability of accuracy, of accurately predicting how your response will be taken. Following are three of the most common tactics used in negotiations and counter tactics to use in response. Okay. Anybody heard of nibbling before?
Heard of what?
Nibbling.
Nope.
All right. Nibbling. Action. Once your client has agreed to one major concession, the other party will start nibbling for additional smaller concessions. Now it makes sense, don't it? The counter tactic, start nibbling from happening to you by nibbling back. Ask for a concession in return before agreeing to any further concession. And people start nibbling once they realize that you either may not know what you're doing, may not have the experience, or you kind of desperate and trying to make some money. They're gonna nibble you to death right now. You're gonna feel like you in a transaction with a piranha. Next one is called hot potato. The other party tries to pass a problem on to you. For example, the co-agent tries to pass all closing costs to your client because their client can't afford them. Buyer. That's a buyer scenario right there. Throw it back. Test the validity. Find out if the problem is real. Has the party with the problem exhausted every possible solution? We all know the good cop, bad cop, right? How husband and wife play the good cop, bad cop. Familiar with that? How you fix that on them is whatever the bad cop says, you apply it to both of them. So now you got two bad cops. That's kind of how you get rid of that. Any questions before I go on to the next topic?
No.
Don't jump in at one time, then.
I'm good.
All right. The last of the three, position. Position is moving both parties closer to each other until you have full agreement. 1, acknowledge and affirm the common ground. Where the buyer and the sellers are in agreement and are at the same position, then identify which positions may be easily adjusted and which are set in stone. What that means is you kind of itemize, okay, we're in agreement on all of this, blah, blah, blah. We're still in disagreement on this issue, correct? Now you can address that issue and leave all the rest of it where it is. Ask what and how questions to better understand the other party's value and why certain things are important to them. For example, say you represent the seller who wants to close in 30 days. If a buyer wants to close within 60 days, ask your client, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you are requesting a 30-day closing. What is important about closing in 30 days? If your client becomes defensive, you would explain, my goal is to let the buyer know why this is important to you. Understanding what is important to the other party allows you to prioritize and address their issues in order of importance. Positioning is a process and sometimes requires you to come back to the negotiating table more than once. Sometimes several counter offers will be necessary to negotiate an acceptance. I am currently in 3 transactions, 2 of which required 2 addendums that 2 lawyers had to look at on both sides, and 1 that I've had 2 counter offers, and we are up to our 6th request for repair counter. And we still ain't got 100% agreement on the one that I'm in my 6th request for repair. So just be cognizant to know that sometimes you got to just keep going in. Okay, this is most important. Know when to walk away. Sometimes the other side may refuse to give your client the win they need despite your efforts. knowing when and how to walk away can not only save your client from a win-lose deal, but it can sometimes jolt an unreasonable party into a concession for fear of losing the deal. The key is to walk away without burning bridges. See how I just told you that? Yeah, I walked away from the transaction, but I really didn't walk away from the transaction. And now we still negotiating. You get my point? Hey, I don't need all y'all to fall asleep on me. We almost there, people. All right.
I'm wide awake, maybe a little quiet, but I'm wide awake.
All right.
Hey,
All right.
I want to back up on something just real quick.
Sure. Feel free to ask questions.
Something you said earlier about knowing contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So since I have done this this transaction, I noticed that I really have to study the contracts. So I just wanted to reaffirm what you're saying, that yes, I know I really have to study these contracts and know them like
contracts will be important. The easiest way to do that is just transactions. You know, I know I've done over 100 transactions between regular transactions and kind of off-market transactions. And over the years, the techniques and the tactics have changed over the years. They've just kept doing some different things. And I've been playing in the investment arena a long time, which gives me a different understanding. See, how the process normally works is you come into the business and you're a buyer's agent first. Buyer's agent allows you to learn contracts a little bit and learn how to deal with clients. Then you become a listing agent. By that time, you've done a few deals, you understand the contracts, you understand what's required. You now have done enough buyer transactions that you understand the requirements of a seller. Because by representing buyers, you know what you're always expecting to receive from the sales side. Then as a listing agent, now you know what information you need to gather from your client, put together and present to the buy side. So it's a process of learning that educates. Now, once you get into investment property, you need to know all of that. You need to know how to deal with a buyer, you need to deal with a seller, and you need to know the contract. Why? Because most investors are probably going to be attorneys. And they know real estate far better than you do if you ain't been in the game for 5 to 10 years. So you have to you have to put yourself in a position where you're not vulnerable.
Juan, you're not gonna believe this. I have Ronnie on the phone. Can I just talk to her just real quick?
Do your thing.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So
I want to ask you, well, maybe you have some time when we get off. I want to ask you about the whole investor thing.
All right, we can talk about that because we're almost through. We got the last little section to do. I didn't realize it was going to be 2 hours, but that's all right. I don't mind spending time with y'all. All right. Now, we're going to do this last buyer scenario. Ready? Your turn. Negotiate the counter offer. You put what you have learned to the test. All right. Choose a different part. Now, we're going to do the part blah, blah, blah. Okay. Buyer scenario. You and your client have found a house they love and it's in the neighborhood they want. It is at the top of their price range and does need some work updating the kitchen and master bedroom. Your client makes an offer on the property and the seller says, I must warn you that we've gotten several offers and your offer is pretty low. The listing scenario. Your seller needs to move within 45 days due to a job transfer. You feel that you have priced the property competitively. You are aware the house needs updating, but the sellers don't see the need because the house was just fine for them. There have been multiple offers. The other offers are still standing, but the timing may not work for the seller. And the latest offer is lower than asking price. You have let the buyers know, I must warn you that I have gotten several offers that are pretty low. All right. Talk to me. What do you offer? How do you fix either one of these scenarios? Buyer scenario. What do you tell your client when the seller tells, the listing agent tells you that the price is a little low?
Could the listing agent be fishing?
Yeah,
Just saying that?
possibly. Because again, you don't know the information that the listing agent knows. The listing agent knows that, yeah, I got higher offers, but the higher offers can't close in the time frame that the seller wanted to be closed. Which puts it like, I get it, but higher number, but can't do what my seller needed, it still has no value. Remember? So what do you tell your buyer now?
Would you tell them to come back and try to present a higher, number, without telling them what they should, bring it up to, but at least a little higher?
A little higher. I try never to get into a price game. Because
Okay.
if I get into a price game, it's always going to be about numbers now. For me, I may tell them the listing agent said they got higher offers on the table, but I don't know. You get my point? I let my buyer make that decision. I don't make the decision for them. These are the comps. This is what it's worth. Yeah, I feel you, but at the end of the day, we're going back to the different thing. How bad do you want this house? Or do we go back on the market and go look for another house? Because your buyer is going to have to make that decision. Do they want to add more money to the table or not? What you just did is explain to them at the price point we are, our percentages of winning just went way down. However, what you have to do is stay firm on the price and say change some of the terms.
Okay.
And see what that gets you. Or ask the listing agent, all right, look, I get I'm on price. And if you got higher offers, why are you even having a conversation with me? What am I missing here? Because you got to consider that part. If a listing agent got 2-3 offers higher than yours, why are they even talking to you? You ever ask yourself that question?
Maybe they don't have it.
Because they may not have what they say they have.
I found that to be true when we were buying our house years ago. The seller wanted us to offer a certain amount, and we said, well, we're not going to do it. And they said, well, we have an all cash buyer. And my attitude, since it was so far up, I said, well, if you have a cash buyer, go on and let them buy it.
Yeah, like, why are you even talking to me?
Yeah, why are you talking to me? And then they changed and put it lower.
Yeah, and that's how you do it.
And they changed a few terms, but that's what they did.
Yeah. You tell me my offer's $45,000 below list, but we having a conversation. Why
Is there a way to verify an offer?
Say that again?
It's just what the listing agent tells you. Is there a way to verify an offer?
No.
Like when you put in saying I'll
the only way you get
$1,000 over the verified offer. How do you verify?
That's how you do it. Meaning by putting that escalation clause in it, if they agree to it, what happens is they got to show you the higher offer in order for you to match it. They can't just say it. You get my point? So that means they have to show you the next offer. And then you're going 1,000 above that. They just can't say the highest offer is 470. You need to put 1,000 on. I need to see that offer. You get my point? So that's how you kind of get in there. Other than that, you have no way.
The offer, the paperwork.
So that they have to. Yeah, they can't just because it's a contingent offer. My offer is $1,000 over the next highest offer you have. So I need to see that highest offer you have so I know what my 1,000 is. It's not based on, what you say the highest offer is. But the agent agreeing to it, they may not realize that's what they're doing.
Is that where they have a couple
they may not realize that they're being required to expose information that they generally wouldn't do. Again, not every agent knows as much as you know, and not every agent is well learned in this industry. So some people are just doing stuff and don't really have any knowledge of what they're doing, and they hoping they're getting it right. A lot of people that are in this industry out here that they go to these companies that promise them 95 to 98% of their commission. Okay, that's cool, but in getting that, you be asking for help, and they ain't never gonna help you. So now you're an inexperienced agent trying to do business. You get 95% of your money, but you're killing yourself because you exposing yourself to legal ramifications. So again, it's a chess game. It's a poker game.
How quickly are they supposed to send that to you?
They're gonna send it to you immediately once they accept your counter. You see my point? Because
once they accept your what?
They're gonna send it to you once they accept your offer. They can't accept you get my point unless your say your 460 was already high. They ain't got to show you the next offer because you're paying 460. They took your 460, not the escalation clause attached to your 460. See, if they wanted 466, they're gonna have to show you a 465. Otherwise, your 460 is good. Did that make sense? All right. Any other questions? Come on. We can do it. We can do it. Now, what do you tell the seller? Nobody knows? Because the seller has what you're trying to do now is tell the seller to take a low offer that has the days that can close in the time frame he needs, or you wait and you got to wait because you're trying to move and go to your house and you have a business transfer. So what do you sell your seller now? You show your seller all the offers. You say, we got all of these offers here. These are the price point, but guess what? Can't none of them close in the time frame you need them to close. Then we got this kind of lowball offer right here that can close in the time you close. So if your seller say, what do you do? Let's counter the lowball, see how high they come up. Feel me? And here's a trick. You do a multiple counter. See, another person's paranoia becomes your biggest tool. You get that? Another person's paranoia about losing something becomes a tool to make you play my game. So you send a multiple counter. Now they're going to say to themselves, damn, I'm bidding against 4 other people. And that's when they start bidding against themselves. They might already be the highest offer and add 5,000 to it because they're scared to lose. People do it all the time, every day. Get that? So in that case, for the seller, you tell the seller, hey, we got one that will close when you need them to close, but they ain't the price point you want. Now it becomes what's more important to the seller, leaving when you want to leave, or them extra 10, 15,000 that you about to leave on the table. What's more important to you? At the end of the day, you still gonna win because it's your listing. Get that? Any other questions? No questions?
No.
Not from anybody? Well, I
No
want
questions right now, no.
Well, I want you all to know that that was the last of our little process. And this has been one heck of a class, especially my first class that I have been able to teach.
You did a good job.
Well, thank you very much.
It was good. It was good. I'd like to see some live negotiation with you.
Say that again?
I'd like to see like a live negotiation scenario with you, though.
Okay. Because I play hardball in negotiation. And the reason I do that is that I represent my client to the best of my ability. Here's what I've learned though. Because the majority of my clients over the years are Jewish, Persians, they negotiate in a whole nother realm. They always want the cheapest price, and I'm always trying to figure out how to get it. And I've made money over the years representing client base like that. So for me, when I get in negotiation, all's fair in love and war. Please don't take it personal. It ain't got nothing to do with how I feel about you, how I like you. It's about I'm in a transaction and I need to win. So I'm just gonna get in the game with it, and I'm gonna use every tool to my advantage, even my knowledge and my experience in the game, because that's why somebody hiring me. I'm gonna bring everything to the table. Even if, look, if you ask me for a price reduction, I'm subject to send you a counter and ask you to take a 0.5% commission reduction and put it in the counter. Now you probably gonna say no, but guess what? You got to show it to your client now. And when you show it to your client gonna say, well, how you just not gonna take an extra half a point trying to help me? You supposed to be helping me. Is it about you now? And all I did is to spark the conversation between you and your client. I ain't did nothing to you. At the end of the day, you probably gonna take that, and you probably gonna take the reduction. Otherwise, you're gonna look like, or otherwise you risk the process of looking greedy to your client. I'm bringing all the rules in play to the game.
I like that one. Give us another one.
Yeah, if you look like you didn't play football, anything legal, the ref don't catch it. There's a lot of ways, but again, you got to know the contract and how to get yourself in play. I do a lot of little. I've done a lot.
Hey, it doesn't. Juan, so it doesn't. Okay, so it doesn't matter what they're asking for. You just come back with a half a point concession. Okay, but take
Maybe.
this.
Sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I'll say flat no. Sometimes I'll ask, okay, look, I'll give you the concession, but I need this. I need my seller needs this. If I don't get my seller that, we can't do this. Ain't gonna work. Again, it's always about, can we get the deal done, or are you gonna accidentally let some money get away from it? That's kind of how that's my position in the deal. That's pretty much how I'm gonna handle it. Can we get it done, or you just gonna let this commission run away from it? Even though I'm teaching you not to allow nobody to handle you like that, what I'm telling you is I'm gonna handle you like that so you get to learn how not to get handled. Because I'm telling you, them cats on the other side of La Cienega, they gonna handle you. I'm telling you, most of them got law degrees. They gonna handle you. I'm telling you, they gonna handle you, and it's gonna and they liable to start bringing legal up in the game. Well, I tell you, next thing you know, your client then got screwed, and you don't know how. So you got to be prepared to fight. I hope that I've been able to help you all today.
You were a great help. I thank you so much.
You guys are welcome. Now I want you all to enjoy your weekend. I'm gonna try to enjoy mine. All right.
Enjoy
now,
your
before
weekend.
I let y'all go, are there any questions?
Thank you.
Look, back to the pajamas.
Thank you, Juan.
I just let everybody leave.
Well, see, that's what I've come to agree with. Anytime I'm on these meetings and I see women and all I see is their pictures, I figure they're in pajamas or it's a bad hair day. One of them two. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, I get it.
Pajamas. I got coloring on my face from the little girl.
All that.
All that above.
Like, hey, I don't need to be seen.
I got ketchup from making food. Yep.
Oh, I feel you. So y'all have a good one. And this has been fun. All right.
All right. Catch you at the next one.
Bye, everybody. Hope you're having fun.
Everybody.
Quarantine.
Bye.
Enjoy.
Thank you, Juan.
Are you welcome?